Hello and welcome to the Analytics Show, the podcast of business through the lens of data science. But together, we'll dive into learning and sharing where various industries are heading and how data and analytics is at the heart of shaping business growth and productivity. Let's spark different ways of thinking about data and analytics that is relevant to you and prepare your business for future disruption. I'm your host, Jason Tan. I'm delighted you could make it on this journey with us. Hey guys, to continue to get support tips, techniques, and tools and learn from the expert, hit that subscribe button wherever you are so we can keep in touch and continue our lifelong learning together. So, are you using your company data to its full potential? Take our embedded analytic assessment to find out your score. A leading organization like Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google have moved beyond dashboard and embedded data science directly into their daily business operation. With our 3-minute test, you will discover your potential in optimizing customer experience and revenue through embedded analytics. You will gain greater clarity, insight, and advice to embed analytics. Plus, you will receive customized results instantly. Find the link to this assessment in the description of this episode. Hey, Michaela, welcome to the Analytics Show. I'm so excited to talk with you across the city. Well, you are in the city. I'm working from home today, but we are all in Brisbane. Super excited to talk to you about the some of the works that you do in the field of the data science and the engagement. How are you today?
I'm great, and it's amazing. Like Brisbane, we're still just a country town, but in terms of data and AI, there's some amazing stuff going on in Brisbane. I think Max Kelson is an AI company just
Yeah,
doing crazy global stuff.
yeah.
So I think it's great. There's a lot of talented people here. It's really exciting.
I can imagine. I have heard a lot of great things about them. I also know a number of companies here in Brisbane doing some really exciting things. Now, before we start talking about some of these exciting stuff, I learned that you are actually into the triathlon a little bit. You are starting. You're doing a lot of those things. Would you want to share a little bit more about that? The non-professional side of the world with the listener.
Sure. So my triathlon is very non-professional. I started almost 3 years ago,
Mm.
and I was actually getting over a broken heart, and I thought this would be something good to do to occupy my mind. I'm not a natural athlete. I didn't know how to ride a bike, and so I thought this would be a good way to sort of meet some people in Brisbane because I'd moved back from Melbourne and extend my skills and. As I was saying before, it was a really interesting thing to start at the bottom of something, to be really bad at it, but to front
Mhm.
up every single day, to do the training and to find myself getting strong. It was a really nice way to balance the, very cerebral, parts of our job that we do for so much time every day.
Yeah. And you are now doing that for quite a bit. Have you joined any of the triathlon event, those sort of thing? What has been your favorite one so far?
Sure. So yeah, you do events all the time because it's the only thing that motivates you to turn up to training at 4:30 in the morning or after work. And so I've done lots of different distances. It starts at the sprint triathlon, which is quite short. I've done an Olympic distance, done a few of those, but the big thing
Mm.
for me was last year was the half Ironman,
Yeah.
and that's a 1.9K swim in crocodile-infested waters in Cairns, 90K bike, and then a half marathon, which is 21.1Ks in the searing heat. So, and it look a huge milestone for me. Again, someone who's not a natural athlete, which goes to show you put in the work, you show up consistently, you can do this stuff. You won't be the best. You might be the worst, but you'll get it done.
I think that feel like is almost very similar to if I were to bring that whole what you just described, that lesson into the work setting. I think from time to time, I feel like we always have to throw ourselves into something new, especially the world of the technology, data, analytic, data science that is moving so fast that the OpenAI literally just changed the way that we think about this whole thing. It almost feel like we have to constantly pick up something new, even though we are not so familiar with that. How
Yes.
do you find that learning or that lesson that you when you were doing all these things new into this work setting that you could share with your team?
I think it's definitely about resilience and, you know, being bad at something, but continuing to try, and then, you start to build the skills. And I think that's the same in our
Mm,
careers. And also, I think the stress of what we do in data and analytics, a lot of us are pioneering new roads. We're doing things that haven't been done before, haven't been done often. And that can be really stressful in a corporate environment where people don't really understand what you're doing. So I think the resilience of, you know, you're used to a lot of pain, so suddenly the pain of the corporate world doesn't seem so bad, if
mm,
that sounds okay. But
yeah.
also a long run is a great time to work out a business problem. If you're doing a 20 or 30K run on the weekend, you've got a lot of hours ahead of you to just think, and your brain works differently, and sometimes you can make connections that really help in the workplace.
I can imagine, and that actually is a good transition into some of the things that I'm gonna ask you. I noticed that when I was doing the research about this podcast interview, I noticed that you have been moving across different industry, across different company, and doing different kind of things. That is very similar to what we have just discussed, like how if things are so different in all of these different roles. My question then is, how have you found that experience to be helpful for what you are currently doing and a lot of the things that you are responsible for?
So do you mean my experience of moving around different companies, how that's helped with
Yeah,
my current role? Yep.
yeah.
Yes. So I currently work for Bendigo Bank,
Mm.
which is an awesome organization, and I'm not just saying it. I mean, you got to say it wherever you work, but they are really great. I've worked for a bunch of banks, and Bendigo's got a really great culture. Um, it,
Sorry. Do you want to give a Bendigo Bank a shout out for the listener who are from overseas, and then
oh, right.
we'll dive back into this. That was my
Sure.
mistake. Should I talk about the Bendigo Bank first?
So Bendigo Bank isn't just in Bendigo, and it's a bunch of banks, in fact, that have merged together. I think is it the sixth largest bank in Australia, and it's got this unusual model where it's got established branches, but it also has a community bank model where we link with an area that may not have thought they could have a bank, and the communities come together to build their own bank, and Bendigo supports them to get up and running. And and then they have sort of a profit split once the community branch is up and running. And Bendigo also donates money into that community for like a sporting event or something like that. So it's very community minded, and obviously it needs to be profitable to keep going. But it's really about supporting communities and not trying to profit off communities. So
Mm,
that provides a workplace culture where people are quite purpose driven, as opposed to just profit driven. Got to get my bonus. Got to stab my
mm,
mate in the back. Um, so that's quite. It's a great supportive culture, and there's a lot of opportunity there in terms of we're not as advanced, particularly in our data and analytics. So there's a lot of opportunity to get up to speed, and I think that's my experience in a whole bunch of industries and organizations has really shown me a lot of failure in other organizations. And so I'm able to come in and say, I know this way has been tried a few times, it doesn't work. Let's try this way that is more successful. I can also say to people, this stuff is hard. Don't feel despondent that, you're trying to build a strategic data platform or you're trying to implement data governance and it's taking time. Yes, this stuff is really hard, and feel proud that you've gotten to where you are, and here's some steps to get you a little bit further. So I feel that that's the sort of experience that I can bring to Bendigo Bank, and God bless them. They're are happy to hear my ideas and support me in that.
Right, right. Now, I think that was a couple of things that I actually really want to dive a little bit deeper. But before that, I want to ask you and set up this narrative about your role. Can you tell us a little bit more about your current role as the head of data strategy and engagement at the Bendigo and Adelaide Bank?
Yes. So I'm part of a team that's only been together for about a year, the Group Data Office.
Mm,
So I report into the Chief Data Officer, Ian Jackman, who is fantastic. Um, so I think I've worked for about 8 or 9 Chief Data Officers, and I've seen a lot of them walked out the door, and most of them, the majority don't last for a long time. So my view is a big part of my role is, supporting the CDO and making him or her successful. But so my role is about, there's sort of 3 parts to it. I'm helping evolve and execute the data strategy. And a big part of that is building that data-driven culture, um, and uplifting data literacy as well, and helping particularly senior leadership understand the art of the possible. I've found in other organisations, particularly the executives, and I hope I don't hurt anyone's feelings, but often, they've been in their career for a long time and they haven't built their career on being data literate or data savvy.
mm,
And some of them are, you'll get a few, but a lot of them are probably more like data dinosaurs. And so you'll say, look, we need to implement these capabilities, and they'll nod, but deep down they don't really believe it because they've done things in a different way, and this is a seismic shift, and for a lot of them it's quite terrifying. So helping them to understand that art of the possible, they don't need to know how to code, they don't need to know what's under the hood, but they need to know how critical it is that these new technologies are coming up and are already incredibly disruptive, like chat GPT. And you it's like the bank that decided to stick with the typewriter and not move to a computer. They're no longer around, and it's the same with
mm,
being data driven. You have to embrace this stuff. So that's a big part of my role. As well, I'm the product owner for the new strategic data platform. So we're moving to cloud and introducing a whole lot of new capabilities around that. And that role is very much linked to the culture and literacy role, because you can't just move a culture. You move a culture by demonstrating what it means to be data driven, and by demonstrating the value of this. So those two are very much interlinked. And the other part of what I do is around evolving our data management maturity as well.
mm.
So there's sort of, there's a bunch of things, but I feel that they're very much interlinked, because they're underpinned by getting the business to do something different to what they did before.
Right. I love it. Now I want to go back to what you were describing, working across different kind of different industry, working across different kind of the business. What was the one thing that you commonly see that the business were failing in one way or another to really achieve these the data-driven organization, data-driven culture? Well, it has been talked so much, but what is that common reason that people seem to be still failing in not to be able to achieve that?
I actually don't think the fault lies with the business.
Mm,
I think it lies with the tech and data teams delivering the capabilities, and that is that they're not taking the business people into account.
yeah.
So I work with a lot of very technical people, a lot of very brilliant data and ML folk, and they are brilliant, but th- not all of them have that ability to engage with the business to really understand their needs. They come at everything with a tech focus, which is normal because that's their area of expertise.
Mm,
And just like the business comes in with a very business focus, and my team are the branch in between. So I think the failure has been the business has got plenty of problems that can be solved, and a
mm,
lot of them really want these problems to be solved in a data-driven way, but they're not getting the support from the tech teams that they need to. They're, um, if I think about, and this doesn't apply to one company, this applies to every single company I've ever worked for, is the tech team will have one conversation with the business and it'll be like, oh, you want a model to reduce churn? Great. The tech and data people run off. They don't talk to the business people again for 6 months. They come back with this model. Meanwhile, the business, they've got sick of waiting. They've gone and gotten consultants. They've built their own model. It might be substandard. It's probably on someone's laptop, but it's better than nothing. Meanwhile,
mm,
the tech team say, look, we've got this model for you. And the business is like, well, I can't use it. It doesn't fit in with my systems. It no longer meets the KPIs I have. We've got someone else to do it. You took too long. All those things, because they haven't kept the business front and center.
yeah.
And it's really easy to say, oh, yeah, we're being business focused, but you're not unless you're representing the business pretty much at every decision. And it doesn't mean you need to have a business person at every meeting, but every time you make a big decision about what direction you're heading in, whether it's around data governance or a capability or a new tool, if you're not thinking about what the business wants, you're just assuming that's where things go wrong. And that's one of my triggers. Every time I hear someone say, oh, I assume the business do it this way, I go, you've got to stop. You've got to find out right now. Because you might be right, but you might be wrong.
That's so true. I think getting the business to be engaged is important, but I also strongly believe and I always encourage the technical team to actually understand the business and to actually
Yes.
understand the customer. How do you think we can encourage the technical people to do that more and to understand those more? I mean, building the model is exciting, doing the ML is exciting, but if that doesn't solve the problem of the business or the customer, might as well not do it. But how do you think, in your experience, what are some of the tricks that you would have to get them to do those things?
So there's two things I can think of, and I've taken data scientists out to do this in the past, so I know it works. One is, uh, if you're in a big organization, business units tend to have like roadshows. They talk about their strategy and what they're doing. As a data person or a technical person can show up to that business unit town hall roadshow and find out what is their strategy, what are their KPIs,
Mm,
or they can read a document. So that's the first thing, is understand what is this business trying to do, what are their pain points, and
yeah.
that it's on a piece of paper or it's at a town hall. And I tell you what, if you're a data scientist, you go to your retail bank town hall and you go up to the head of retail bank, they're going to be really excited to see you. And the second way is to sit with someone who is likely to use the insights from a model, but sit with them to see what they do in their day jobs.
Mm,
So I took, when I was at Suncorp, took the senior data scientist out to sit in a branch for the day, and he was just truly shocked when he saw what the branch manager had to do in terms of just purely reporting and how clunky it was. So suddenly there's a mindset shift of, these people don't necessarily need a big whiz bang model. They need their data fixed up for them just to help them do their job. So um, it's sort of, you hear about, oh, you've got to go spend time with the business. And I know, again, technical people don't want to do it, but you can go in with those guardrails of, I'm trying to find out about your strategy,
right.
or I'm trying to actually see what is your work process now that you think we can help with. And if you're going with that rather than just sitting with a call center person all day, you're going to get the learnings that you need to get.
Mm. Now, I'm going to flip this coin to the other side. How can we get business to be more involved with the data guys, and
Yeah.
so they understand what are the possible, what are the things that are entirely possible that they have never thought of because they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so um, I think everyone needs to be responsible to become data literate, and whatever that means for them. So um, I know in the past I've encouraged people to do. There's a great course on Coursera. I think it's called Introduction to AI, and it's pitched at senior people who don't want to learn how to code, and that's been really helpful for senior people that know that they want to have some kind of ML to support them but aren't sure where to start. So that can give people a good practical level of data literacy.
Mm,
Um, and so I think it is beholden upon business people to learn a little bit. And there's just so many online seminars now
yeah,
where people are showing what they do. And, you can talk to pretty much anyone on LinkedIn, say, oh, hi, I see you've done this. Can I talk to you about it? And they'll come and talk to you and your team. People really love to talk. It's fantastic. So so there is that, but again, I think, a group data office can help the business by organizing guest speakers, having a thought
yeah.
leadership series. Come and hear so and so from an overseas energy company about how they maximized energy production with wind turbines, and start helping them understand, and someone that speaks their language but can start that bridge to the data driven world.
Right. Um, I think both sides really have to do something where the data
Yeah.
guys really have to champion about, they literally have to go around the organization and champion about themselves, about what they can do. And also, I think sometimes it's not necessarily about suggesting the solution, but also is more about talking about the possibility of what other people have already done within or
Yes.
outside organization to spark that whole idea. Is that the right way to put that? Is that what you were suggesting?
Exactly. It's sparking the ideas because these
Mm,
senior business people, they're super smart. And if one of their peers from another company is doing something, it will spark a whole bunch of ideas. It doesn't have to be the same idea, but it will get them
exactly.
thinking. Um, I know this isn't exactly a business data linkage, but the first chief data officer I worked for, he would admit that he wasn't super technical, but he made it his business to sit with the chief data scientist, I don't know, once a fortnight, once a month, to just pepper him with questions. And again, I think that was really smart because he's got a PhD here, and he can just find out stuff. Can we do this? And what does this mean? And what's Kubernetes? And is that even
Mm.
important? So, um, that kind of you know reverse mentoring maybe with a data scientist, or someone very data savvy to ask them questions and float your ideas.
But I think that is the important part, and that is the part where sometimes I feel like we are ignoring, where sometimes we can be spending too much time talking about all this data, that model, that AI, or this cloud platform, and then the business at the same time talking about all these customer problems. But then, how do you really bring that together? It really comes down to about that whole organization understanding and also the human nature understanding. That how do you get two people to talk together? I think that is even more important than just those two things, because if they don't come together, none of those things will actually happen.
Yeah, well, that's why I get to be employed, because that's my area of expertise, is helping the business people, articulate their problems in a way where the tech people can develop a tech solution to deliver that, but also to start upskilling the tech people in being able to have those same conversations, to give them certain tools that will guide a conversation so that
Mm,
they can, articulate that business problem, and knowing the capabilities they've got is how do we reuse them to help the business. So
absolutely.
I, I've got a I've got a great tool which we can share with the audience after, called the Wheel of Clarity. It's a stupid name, but it's a series of questions that, again, before do a business case on a big piece of work, you make sure you sit down with the business and the tech team so everyone is on the same page of what you're doing and why, and how is this going to be used. Because often that's that last piece of, well, if you're building a model, how are the insights going to be used? Who's going to use them? How are we going to know it's successful? Everyone seems to forget about that until the model's built, and that's where
Mm.
people can fall at that last hurdle. They've spent a huge amount of money and time, and sheer brilliance building a fantastic model that could really make the organization a lot of money, but there's no way of getting those insights into the hands of the people that can use them because they haven't thought about it up front.
Hey guys, I got something really exciting from my friend at the Australian Computer Society to share with you. Now, ACS, they are going to run a Queensland State Tech Summit for the 2023. And I think this is a really, really good opportunity to network with some of the brightest minds in the industry, but also more importantly, I think here's some of the ground success story and the example from the Queensland Tech professional. Now, the event is going to take place on the 26th May of 2023 at Cloudland 40. Now, this is a lovely place for those of you who have been there. Now, the previous event is really a perfect opportunity for those technology enthusiasts to come together to learn from some of the industry experts. I know some of my friends actually is going to be there and speak and share their idea and experience. So I highly, highly recommend that to join this event. Now, with a diverse range of speakers, including some of the top leaders in the tech industry, so you really can expect to gain insight on topics like the cybersecurity, local approach to the inclusive tech leadership, low-code gaming technology, obviously data, analytic AI, and also really interesting is the space technology. And for those who are not familiar, in Queensland, we actually have quite a few of prominent space startup in Queensland. So, and obviously with more to come. So, but that's not all. I think that is also excited to announce that we'll also have some photo booth where you can really get your headshot for your LinkedIn profile taken for you on the day. Now, this is really, really important or useful, especially if you are active on LinkedIn, and to showcase the best of you on LinkedIn for your potential employer or customer if you are doing a lot of business development work. Now, finally, that is also opportunity to explore some of the seat for the table and also network with your fellow attendee. Now, register today for early bird tickets. And if you are not an ACS member, use the promotional code of the Analytics Show listener is ACSTAS. I repeat again, ACSTAS at the registration page to save $125 off the event ticket and join us at the ACS Queensland State Summit 2022. So I look forward to seeing that. If you have any question, I'll just give you a shout out or give ACS a shout out. I will share the discount code on the LinkedIn post also in the email as well. See you there. Bye. How do you think we can solve that problem? I think I have seen so many of them. My solution is don't build the report, just build the solution right into the business process or the business operation. That's
Well,
my way. That's my
absolutely.
takeaway.
That's the perfect thing is to, if you can make it as seamless as possible, absolutely. But you could be waiting a long time to get there. So maybe along the way, you've got to do something a bit clunky. But again, I talk about, building in quick wins. So your end goal might be building a model into a business process.
Right.
But to keep the business engaged, you've got to give them little value drops along the way. And a
Okay.
value drop can be something as simple as, hey, we looked at your data and we found these 3 insights, and you send them on an email. So,
Yes.
okay, that's not changed the business process, but some insight that the management
Exactly.
team could potentially work on. And maybe again, originally insights have to be a little bit clunkily put in, but if you're upfront with the business about, well, how can we make this work for both of us, and what does success look like? Um, And again, success metrics could be really nebulous or huge, and we want to make $100 million. That's too hard. Your first success metric could be, we want 4 people using this next best action model for a month, and we're going to see how that goes. Like, they're the sort of
Exactly.
success metrics I think um, a less mature company should be aiming at when they start off, because that's relatively it's achievable. You can put your hands around it, and then when you achieve that, you've got a business person that's agreed to that success metric, so you both can go out and start to evangelize, and you can start to scale. So that would definitely be a recommendation. Is it people trying to look for these little slivers of value, maintain that long-term view, but what can you be dropping along the way?
Mm. Exactly. I think that is your my true definition of agile, of delivery, rather than just following the whole framework blindly, which is about dropping that value. How do we make little things happen? And before
Yes.
we even try to build the whole thing, my question then though is that I think that has been taught so much, that has been brought into this whole agile framework, but
You're right, it has, but no one's doing it. No one anywhere is doing it without a whole lot of encouragement. Like
or or
I
before they can adopt this software, agile software, or that whole agile meeting, or
yeah,
the agile, don't know what that is, they can do it, but it seems like it's still falling short. How can we
hu-
improve that, you think?
hugely. Look, that I don't know, other than um, y- it's having someone with the stakeholder lens, with the end user lens on at the big decision points. And that doesn't mean every stand up. It, you're supposed to do a showcase to the stakeholder once a fortnight. I
Mm,
thought the number of showcases I've been in, and I've gone, well, where's the person from the business? Nowhere to be seen. And it's like, well, guys, you're just showing each other code. You could do that at the pub later. And it's not to say that's not important. It's just that um, someone from the business has to be there. And if the answer is, well, the business person got sick of coming because it was boring, well, then you're not showing anything of value.
mm,
So, you need to work out why. You need to be demonstrating something each time. And if you're not, then you're working on the wrong stuff. And
mm,
so sometimes I get accused of, oh, it's just marketing, Michaela, and it's not. It's getting your product into the hands of end users. When we're building a model or a dashboard or a data governance tool, we are essentially building a Barbie doll, because we're a Barbie doll factory, and that Barbie doll isn't worth a cent until it's in the hands of a little girl or a little boy. So the same with what we're doing. It has to get into the hands of a user, and an end user needs to be there at those big decision points along the way.
so spot on. I actually would even use the word of marketing, but I probably would add an additional word in front of it, which is internal marketing. I think the technical user, I myself have experienced that before. I myself have made that sort of mistake before. We're building something so beautiful, people are gonna love it. Once we have built it, people are gonna adopt it like crazy. We're gonna make $1 billion. But the truth is, I don't think that the outside, the world of outside of us necessarily understand that. So internal marketing of that whole championship still needs to happen. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. And it's not just about doing some comms once you've built it. It's
correct.
it's
Yeah.
about getting those users in, getting your brave early adopters in when it's
Mm,
still clunky,
mm,
and then smoothing it out that way. Because really, the iPhone is a great example of a product that was so intuitive that it did sell itself. But pretty much everything we're building inside corporate land is not an iPhone. It's not a seamless experience,
yes,
and so we have to do the work.
exactly. I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. I think to some extent, some of the engineer, they understand it, but they equally find challenging to do it. Not everyone is born to be a
Yeah,
great marketer, a great
yeah,
salesperson. If you have a great salesmanship and if you are a great engineer, those people would do very, very well. Um, and I think that is the reason why they are equally good at the engineering side, because they are so focused in terms of getting their heads down and solve the problem. But knowing all of this, how can we help this engineer to go out and champion on the stuff that they do and feel okay to sell themselves and feel okay to talk like a great marketer?
Um, I don't necessarily think every engineer has to do that. I think, but there should be someone on every, we'll call it a product team, that
Mm,
can fulfill that role. But also, I think who's ever in charge of that product team, I'll call them the product team, the data and tech people, and hopefully a business person as well, whoever's in charge should say that one of the KPIs is around adoption or usage. It can't just be, hey guys, we're going to consider this a success because you've built it. That's not enough. One of the KPIs is, and people have to be using it. And
yeah.
and that's a big change for a lot of the teams that I've worked with in the past. That their view is, no, we build it, we throw it over the fence, not our problem. And once you add in a KPI around adoption, um, or usage, they're going to have to change their mindset because now they're being measured on it.
Mm,
So when they're coding, if they're thinking, oh, this is beautiful code, but I'm not sure anyone would ever use it, well, that's the sort of thinking we need to change. So, I think if there's engineers listening thinking, oh, I'm not going to go talk to stakeholders I don't want to. Well, you don't have to. But it's being mindful that they're there and respecting the person that represents them. So, I don't expect an engineer to know every skill set, but they need to respect that I can't code like they can. Ergo, I will, respect their coding. They need to respect my stakeholder lens, and then we work together. So
mm.
I think that's the way that can help, is that everyone's got a part in producing that product.
I'm going to push this even further, and I'm going to try something that I have tried outside of the corporate, where when I am building the consumer technology or when I'm building the consumer product, one of the lessons that I have learned over the year, equally the mistake that I have made years and years ago, is that build it and people will come. That was a mistake. And now, instead of build it and people will come, I'm gonna try to sell it and get the money in the bank before building it.
Like,
That sounds easy in the consumer world.
yeah.
You are charging for maybe $30 a month or $100 a month. Not actually, once you cross the $100 a month, it's getting harder. But how can we borrow that mindset? Do you think is that possible, even possible at all, to get the to bring that concept back to the corporate and do it?
So in a way, that's kind of what happens in the corporate world, particularly in banking, where we we've got to convince the business to stump up money to build stuff often
Mm,
beforehand, before it's even proven. And quite frankly, the fact that they'll hand over anything is quite amazing. But I wonder if maybe what you're talking about is the subscription model, and that's
mm,
not something the corporate world uses. It's all like just hand over a wad of cash and we'll waste it all and come back and ask you for some more, and you'll probably still not get what you wanted. But I do wonder about that subscription model. How could that work? But again, I'm thinking on the fly. The subscription model works because the initial investment's made, isn't it?
mm.
Someone's built Netflix, or they've built ChatGPT, or they've whatever, and now people subscribe. So in the corporate world, maybe there's funding to set it up, and then there's
Yeah.
a subscription model to use it or to build new products off it.
I feel like maybe the gap is, I think you're spot on, like technically they already paid before pay for it before the tech team start building it. I think where I feel like I was missing in the picture is how we can borrow the same idea, the concept and the idea, but make people to be more invested, make the business to be more invested, not just say, hey, here's my. I know in the subscription model, you literally have about 40% of the people paying for the subscription and never
Yeah.
use it.
Yeah.
Still, there is a good 60% of the people who are actually really invested on it. So maybe the key is that I wonder what are the things that we can borrow. Again, I'm putting you on the spot. What are the things that we can borrow to make people more invested in doing that? Yeah.
So if I think about the subscription models, often people invest because, you know, their mates are. Did you see this on Netflix? I haven't got Netflix. I better get Netflix. Maybe that's a bad example because Netflix is going down. But um, yeah, I think proving out the success of whatever product you've got will encourage other users.
Mm,
Um, but the other way in the corporate world is having a data-driven KPI for every single business unit. So every executive that reports to the CEO, if they've got some kind of, you know, you have to do a data-driven KPI, something to demonstrate how your area is being data-driven. That's also going to force, you know, that would encourage people on a subscription
mm,
model or a funded whatever it is, because they have to do something to achieve something. I mean, the corporate world's quite simple. People will do what they're measured on and what they're rewarded for. They're not going to do something, even if they know it's the right thing to do. It's we unfortunately that's how they've trained us. We will work to our KPIs.
yeah.
So if you're if you've got a KPI that says that you know how much are you using a new strategic data platform or how many ML models you've got, which I think both of those are bad KPIs, um, that's going to push the behavior
Yes. I
and
think
want people to be invested.
yeah, I think it's also setting out about that right narrative, which is how are you really solving the customer problem using data?
Yeah.
That would be the right KPI.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, for those who are getting started, or for those who are invested deep in this whole data strategy, AI, ML, but they are still stuck in terms of the adoption, what would be your final comment for that you want to share with them to get them moving?
It starts really small. Just find something and commit 2 weeks to it. Don't say, "Oh, this is going to take a year or 3 months." No way. We're going to do an experiment for 2 weeks and let's see what we can get out of it. It's when you get involved in the funding vortex or politics, if you can somehow get out of that and find someone in the business, not your mate in tech, someone in the business who is excited by this stuff, and you get them on board and you do something together and you can show it. That would be my best advice for people. Yeah.
As a technical people, as a data scientist, I'm going to say something extremely controversial. Forget about all the data tech. Make it on Excel spreadsheet. Show the value, prove the case,
Yes.
deliver it. Then worry about the data.
Yeah. Look, I agree. I agree. It's what's the easiest way to do this?
Hmm.
Um, I mean, dashboards. Executives love a dashboard, because often they're still having to call up someone every time they want a figure. You give them a dashboard that updates automatically, they're going to think you're amazing. Meanwhile, you're like, mate, that's completely kindergarten, but you got to get them to kindy before they can get to junior high.
Now, before we move on to the final two questions, is there anything else that you would like to share?
No, I think you've done a really good job of just pulling out all my experience today, Jason. It's fantastic. Thank you. It's been really fun to talk about, and I hope people, get something out of the conversation.
Thank you. Now, these are my two final questions that I've got for you. The first one first. What is your most important first principle?
So, um, in work life, it is what's the purpose of this? And if it's a meeting, what's the purpose of this? And do I need to be here? So I'm very like objective focused. What are we really trying to do here? Let's just do that and not get blinded by the pretty stuff on the way.
Mm. And what is one book that you have read and thought it would have been better for your younger self to have?
So this book it's a fairly recent book, so I couldn't have read it when I was younger, but I wish I had if it'd been available. There's a book called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
I have
And
heard.
yeah, so he's not a data guy, but it's the power of the mind, but again, not in a guru way, but in a someone who's come from a terrible, terrible background and who's absolutely done amazing things and transformed his body and his mindset. And so many triathletes I know have read his book and gone on to do amazing things because you see pain in a very different way than you did before. So Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. If you don't like swearing, do not pick up the book.
I listened to the audiobook version, and I think the part where he do the narrative, do the whole audio part. There are bits and pieces that he did it by himself. I think it really adds another level into that. I really love.
Yes. It's like an audio book and a mini podcast after each chapter,
Yeah,
and it's amazing. It is, yeah, amazing. I recommend it for everyone of every age. It's very
I,
good.
I so agree. I really love that one as well. Now, thank you so much, Michaela. Has been so wonderful to talk about different lanes in the world of the data. I think we all can get so excited about the data, the tech. Equally, we all can get so excited about the business, but how do we bring those two things together? That is what matters, and I think that
Yeah,
we have covered a lot in this conversation. So thank you so
great.
much.
Thank you. Thanks. Lovely to chat. Talk soon.
Hello, if you enjoyed this conversation, hit that subscribe button so we can meet again. If you don't, I'll be stuck in an infinite loop. So pull that part by clicking the subscribe and help me out. You can further support us by leaving us a kind review from wherever you are listening. At the end of the year, I will choose a reviewer to send a special gift to, and it might just be you. Look forward to seeing you here next week for a new adventure. If I can find my way out of this endless loop. See ya!